Well, Andreas, we want to know everything about you.
How much time do we have?
I think around 40 minutes. So it's going to be alright. It's going to be alright.
My life in 40 minutes, yeah.
Your life in 40 minutes. Please tell us about your career and how you start working for Disney.
Well, it goes back to my childhood, as these things usually do. And I was about 11 or 12 years old when I saw the first Jungle Book, not the recent one, the first Jungle Book in theaters for the first time, growing up in Germany at the time. And my life changed from one day to the next. It was like, this is what you're going to do. So I told my parents about it, and my sisters. They said, yeah, you're going to America to work for Walt Disney. Sure you will. But there's something that didn't really stop me from pursuing this, and it was about a year later. I asked my English teacher at the school to help me with some questions that I could ask the studio about how I can prepare myself to sometime in the future work for you guys here. And believe it or not, they wrote me back. And they wrote something really interesting. They said, if you're really serious about doing animation the way we do it at Disney, please don't send us any drawings of Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, because that we can teach you later. You have to become an artist on your own right first, so go to art school, take classes. When you're older, you have to do some life drawing. You have to know the human figure inside and out. Draw at the zoo, draw there a lot, and draw your brothers and sisters and show us how you see the world. That's what we want to see. So I took that very seriously and went to the zoo and took life drawing classes, went to art school eventually when I was 18, 19 years old, and then applied formally to Disney in 1980, and I started in August of 1980.
Wow.
So that's my past.
And you created all those amazing characters. For me, I wonder which one was the most challenging to create?
I can maybe point to a couple of them that are up there. Roger Rabbit doesn't seem to be so difficult to draw because he's a cartoon character, you know, he doesn't have real anatomy. He's a cartoon animal. So drawing him and animating him wasn't so hard, but putting him into that live action world with the other actor, Bob Hoskins and all the others, that was tough. And I don't want to get into explaining how we did it because it's kind of technical and it would take a long time. But if you look at the live action footage on Roger Rabbit, there's a camera, you know, that moves around and does this and moves in and out and around the characters. So how do you plug in your animated character to work with that live action and the camera moves? So that was at first a nightmare, but I had a way to figure that out. It still wasn't easy, but the end result, I mean, gosh, it was such a groundbreaking film. So it was really, really fun to work on that one. The other tough one is actually Gaston, standing next to Roger Rabbit, for different reasons, because when I started out on Gaston, my first drawings that I did was like a villain would look like, with a big jaw and a mustache, you know, and a cartoon character, he's the villain, the bad guy. And I remember our boss at the time, Jeffrey Katzenberg, said, well, the scene you just animated, it looks fine, but he has to be handsome, you know. And I said, handsome? He's the bad guy, what are we doing here? And he said, well, he's got to be handsome. So I was kind of upset a little bit. Now all the fun is going to be gone out of drawing weird expressions and all that for a villain. And then about 2 weeks later, he called me into his office and he said, you know, I have to explain to you that what our theme is in the story, in Beauty and the Beast. The theme really is, don't judge the book by its cover. Meaning, we have the Beast on one side who looks horrifying and scary, and we find out throughout the story that he really has a heart of gold. And Gaston is the opposite. He looks like a handsome dude, but we find out he's a male chauvinist and he becomes even a murderer in the end. So it has to be clear, he has to be handsome. And I remember saying, but it's going to be so much more difficult to do that, and him being the boss, he said, well, nobody said it was going to be easy, and the meeting was over, you know. So then it was up to me to kind of make that work. So for that reason, he was tough.
Of course, I also say Mickey, part of it. You were in charge of Mickey Mouse. What does it feel to draw Mickey and animate Mickey Mouse, who was actually created by Walt Disney himself?
The first one, the first major character?
One. Yeah, exactly.
It was really scary because you take on a character that the whole world knows really, really well. And if you screw this up, everybody will say, yeah, look at this one, you know, no, you know. So what you do is to do some homework before you even get started. And we kind of look at the different versions of Mickey over the years. As you know, he changed. And all of the animators agreed that the best Mickey Mouse version is like the late 30s, early 40s, like the Fantasia Mickey, for example, when the eyes were first opened up, you know, he had pupils. So we decided to research that particular one, and over in Los Angeles, Disney has a thing, like an archive called the Animation Research Library, and they keep all the drawings ever made. This is this gigantic building with like millions of drawings, not hundreds of thousands, millions of them. But they are really organized, and you can actually take that scene from The Brave Little Tailor and flip it and see what his hands do and how his face turns and why his ears are always round, no matter how he turns, and then they just float on his head up and down. Why that works, nobody knows, you know. But you just do it. It's magic. It's magic. So you do your homework, and then you apply what you learn to your own work and make an act and all that. So we did a really fun project actually here in Paris, in Montreuil, one of the suburbs of Paris, where we had a satellite studio, Disney Animation France, and we did a Mickey Mouse film called Runaway Brain. In French it was Mickey perd sa tête, and I had an absolute blast working here for almost a year with a French crew. It was really fun. It was really cool.
But actually, that was the first time we saw Mickey, scary Mickey, like very horrifying Mickey. You have it happens to you during the shooting of this film here when walking on the park and with a jacket. Can you tell us the little story?
Yeah,
which is really fun.
So it's an unusual Mickey. You know, he's a monster, and we made him scary looking with his ears all torn up and teeth and saliva coming out of his mouth. Not the usual Mickey, but he turns into the good Mickey, of course, in the end. But before we got finished with the movie, they gave us crew shirts, like jackets, you know, and they had the bad Mickey on the back of the crew jacket. It was the one, you know, that pose where he's doing this, all these teeth and the saliva and all of that. Yeah, a really, really disgusting looking Mickey. And I was wearing that shirt coming to the park one day, and I went into one of the shops to check out some merchandise, and there was this lady there. She looked at me and the shirt, and she said, "You shouldn't be wearing like this here at the park, you know. This is bad, this is counterfeit merchandise, you know." And she really gave me a hard time. She thought I made this up, you know, and I was insulting Mickey. I was trying to explain we're doing a movie and he's bad only for a short time. She, no, out. But I thought it was very sweet because she had really strong feelings about the character and the way she sees him. I actually thought it was cute.
Yeah, we're protecting Mickey.
Exactly.
Of course. Let's go back to your character. What is your process when you create a new character? How do you proceed?
It's always a challenge and always different. Some characters kind of fall into place early, like with Scar. I actually got his design locked down pretty soon. With Gaston, it was more of weeks and weeks of trying. But what I usually do is, since I'm not the first person on the movie, but I come on and some work has already been done, like story work. So I can look at the storyboard panels and see how those guys drew that character. And then there's some visual development artists, there are some character designs that might have been loose and rough and unfinished, but I can take a look. And then the other big influence is the voice, because during that time they usually have found the voice or are still looking. But if they have found the voice, I listen to some tracks and close my eyes and imagine now what would that look like? You know, what kind of a face would that be, or what kind of a body? So the voice is super important. And in the case of Scar, we had Jeremy Irons, who is like a master actor. And I've said this before. He is so good of an actor. He can read the telephone book, and I would want to animate that. And I'm not kidding. He has a way with words and the way he reads these lines. So with him, it was always easy to animate. Sometimes you have a soundtrack, and he goes, "Well, I can do it like this, or I can do it like that, or maybe this would be better." With Scar, it was like a piece of cake. It animated itself. It was such a good voice. So that's my process, you know, basically looking at other people's work that have started and then making it my own.
Get it? Really? I don't know if you noticed how I introduced Andreas a couple of minutes ago. but I mentioned something very important that happened in 2015 during the D23 Expo. Andreas Deja was honored as a Disney legend.
That was a good day.
Yep.
That was very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. How does it feel to be a Disney
It
legend?
was
To be honored,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, they called me up before I even knew about this, of course. They called me from the Disney archives, and I was driving my car, I remember, in Studio City, and I had my phone attached to the front of my car. And this lady said, are you going to be in town on June of this particular year? And I said, I don't think I have any travel plans. Yeah, I'm going to be in town. She says, good, because we're going to make you a Disney legend. And I was like, you know, trying to not run into a tree, you know. But it was a really fun event. Some of the other people along with me that were on it were George Lucas, Johnny Depp. So you mingle with the big guys, you know, and I had a lovely talk with George
Random party.
about Star Wars and other things, you know. I actually had met George Lucas years before during the production of Roger Rabbit. He came by and visited, and I took him around one Saturday and showed him how we did that. But that was so long ago, he wouldn't remember. But I reconnected with him, and yeah, it was a really fun day. And I think what it really means is that the company likes what you have done for 30 years. It's really what that means, and that's why they give you the honor. So it feels really good.
Of course. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
But you're still drawing now. What's your next project? Do you have something to share with us?
I'm working on my own right now with a group of friends, and since I still want to do animation that is hand-drawn, that's what I do, that's my machinery, you know, which is still going. And the CG stuff is great, but I decided, you know, I don't need to contribute to that. That's in good hands, whether it's Pixar or the other studios. That's taken care of. I wonder if I would even be able to tell my own kind of a story and animate it and direct it. So I created this project, and I wanted to do something with a human being and an animal, like an animal-human story. And I thought, what would be fun to draw? What kind of animal? Well, a tiger would be pretty cool. I already have some experience with big cats based on what we did with Lion King. Now I can go even further with that with a tiger. How about a young girl and create some kind of a story with that? So one day I came up with the idea, what if this Russian girl, we took the story to Russia, because they still have big tigers there in eastern Russia. What if she finds this cub in the forest and he's an orphan and she raises him, and as he gets big, there are some bad people around her who know that a dead tiger is worth a ton of money. So she finds out about this, that they're plotting something bad. So the only way she can save him is to take him back deep into the forest where she found him and hope he will stay. But things are not going according to plan. So that's just the center of the whole story. There's more, there's her grandmother and her father and other characters, her friend Alex. But it's going to be a half hour, and I've been at it for a few years now, and we're going to finish sometime in the first half of next year. The film is called Mushka, which is Russian for sweetheart. So check out Mushka next year.
We'll keep an eye on that.